welcome back. Well, international tourists seem to be choosing South Africa as the holiday destination of choice. According to data from Stats SA, close to 97% of travelers were in the country for holiday purposes. Looking at the overall picture, South Africa welcomed over 850,000 foreign travelers in June, reflecting a 2.4% increase on a year-on-year basis. And joining me now to help us put the numbers into perspective is the CEO of the Southern Africa Tourism Services Association, David Frost. Thank you so much for your time, David. Now, of course, what we've been trying to do since COVID is really trying to get the tourism industry to recover back to the pre-COVID-19 levels and even surpass them. When you look at the state of the tourism industry at this point, where are we in terms of that recovery? Or are we seeing just maybe pockets of, that have gone back to the kind of growth that we saw pre-COVID?
Well, good evening. Always good to be with you. So when we look at the statistics, and bear in mind, we are interested in inbound tourism. So we look at our overseas tourism arrivals. And when you look at the January to May figures for 2024, and you compare them for the same period pre-COVID, which is 2019, we are at 85% in terms of overall inbound numbers. Certain markets have recovered stronger than others. So there's been strong growth out of markets like the USA. They're back to pre-COVID levels, as is the Netherlands, interestingly enough. And then you get a market like Brazil that has come up from, it used to be about our 8th or 9th biggest market, and it's now in 5th place. And that's a testament to air access and the SAA relaunch, and Brazilian carriers also flying that same route. But you're very correct in your intro that the benefits of this recovery are being felt in places like Cape Town, the top-end lodges around Kruger. But in many of the other parts of the country, they're not seeing the recovery as strongly as it once was. We still need to bring back the solid mid-market out of our main source markets, the UK and Germany. The price of air has gone up, and it's almost doubled in the post-COVID world. And that's acting as quite a significant deterrent in terms of recovering those particular segments.
Well, it's quite interesting also that we see the bulk of tourism being for holiday, for leisure. Where are we in terms of business travel, business tourism?
Look, business tourism is not really my sort of preserve, but that has come back, I think, quite strongly. People are meeting again, and when we have a look at those overall numbers, I think that the business tourism segment has rebounded quite strongly. But let me just add a caveat to my original comment, and that is there are two markets where we desperately need attention, and those are the two fastest growing outbound markets in the last 15 years, and namely India and China. And we have done appallingly in those markets. When you look at our overall arrivals, 77% of the overseas arrivals come from North America and Europe. India and China only account collectively for 6%. And we have gone backwards from 2013 levels. Whereas our competitor like Australia has doubled numbers from India and China in the same period. And the root of the issue here is firmly with our visa regime.
Yes. Well, let's actually talk about that, because that was actually one of my questions, particularly because India and China are also part of the BRICS nation, as is South Africa. You talk about the visa requirements, visa regulations, and particular attention has been on China. And of course, you mentioned now India as well. What is so cumbersome about those processes, and are they different from the other countries where we get tourists from?
They differ significantly. We have not kept pace with international best practice in this regard. A lot of our competitor countries have gone to far more sophisticated, very easily user-friendly methods, and Australia is a case in point. But Also, with, let's look closer to home. Our big competitor, Kenya, who I might add is at 140% of pre-COVID levels, have gone to a visa-free, a visa on arrival regime. Now, are they being swamped by Chinese gangs? We don't think so. But the good news in this regard, let me just say firstly to pay a tribute to our minister and thank that the president continued with her. So we have continuity with our tourism minister, but we also have significant changes in Home Affairs. And the other ministry that really bedevils us is transport, and there's been a change in minister there. But on the visa story, I mean, the classic case in point is our previous president, for his, let's say, his own, in his own wisdom, just did a visa waiver overnight for Russia, and in March 2017. And in 2.5 years subsequent to that, the numbers from Russia doubled. And you ask yourself, why Russia? Are there safety concerns? I mean, we've got a great case study there. And from our point of view, we would like to see a visa waiver. And if we can't see a visa waiver for India and China, let's be smart. If people from those countries have valid Schengen, UK or US visas, they've done the work for us. Let's let them in. And we are confident with the ease of a visa regime. And let me just say, there's been broad support for this from the highest levels of our business leadership community in Bursa. People at that level are recognizing the value of tourism and recognizing that there are impediments. But the Office of the President is involved in this. Operation Vulindeba is involved, and we are confident that we can put into play in the next couple of months a significant relook at this and to launch a far more effective visa regime.
Well, just lastly, as we wrap up the conversation, David, I think we have about less than a minute to talk about impediments, and there recently have been impediments in our SA airports, and of course things can't run smoothly if we have those kinds of challenges. There was a suspension of air traffic navigation services. What kind of conversations have you had there within the industry?
Well, look, we, from an industry perspective, it's just acutely, cumbersome and just it's inherently uncompetitive to suddenly shut regional airports down. If there are issues there, we urge the minister to address them, but to communicate effectively to the tourism industry. Simply to shut them down and say, well, we'll let you know when they're going to reopen is absolutely unacceptable in today's world. So there's got to be a far more private sector friendly approach to these things. We're not negating the issues there. Those are technical issues and they need to be addressed. But equally, we can't get vehicles licensed. This is a simple process. We have 79 operators, 289 vehicles, young entrepreneurs, and this has been going on for 7 years with the Department of Transport. We face obdurate, indigent bureaucrats, and it's that level that needs to be addressed, because they are the people holding economic growth back. They are the people stifling job creation. And we urge government to seriously address that. So we're looking forward to an interface with the Minister of Transport at her earliest convenience.
Right. Well, thank you so much for that and giving us insights on the picture that we are seeing there in the tourism industry, particularly for overseas travelers. That was the CEO of SATSA, David Frost.